Welcome to the deep dive. You know, it's kind of crazy when you think about it, like how we create these deep dives for you guys. Today we're diving into something pretty meta.
Oh,
A presentation about how we're made.
it is fascinating, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
This Smigrod guy,
Yeah.
he gave this presentation at Podfest 2025 about a workflow for creating podcasts using AI. And get this, he's talking specifically about us, Google NotebookLM.
It's like we're listening in on our own origin story.
Right.
We research, we write, we produce and voice these deep dive podcasts on pretty much any niche you can imagine. And Dan's figured out how to get those podcasts out to the world in under 30 minutes.
That's right. He can distribute our podcast episodes to YouTube podcasts and nearly 20 other podcast apps in less than half an hour. Talk about efficiency.
It's mind-blowing. So let's unpack Dan's workflow.
Okay.
He starts by talking about this thing called the We Get Around Network Forum and the WGAN Forum podcast.
Yeah, so Dan's actually the founder and managing editor of both of those. He's got a ton of experience in podcasting, and he's already created over 350 AI-generated episodes for the WGAN Forum podcast.
That's a lot of podcasts. He clearly sees the value in using AI for content creation.
Absolutely. And he's found a way to make it incredibly efficient.
Like how?
His 30-minute workflow is all about leveraging AI to streamline every stage of the podcasting process.
Okay, so walk me through it. What's the first step?
Okay, so the first step is to find a news release that's relevant to your niche.
Okay.
Dan mentioned sources like Globe Newswire, Business Wire, and PR Newswire.
Yeah.
He even suggests using ChatGPT to find even more options.
So it starts with finding a spark, a piece of news that can be turned into a deep dive conversation.
Exactly. Once you have your news release, you head over to Google Docs and start crafting a prompt for us for NotebookLM.
Okay.
This prompt basically tells us what you want us to focus on from the news release.
So it's like giving us a set of instructions of a creative brief for the podcast episode.
That's a great way to put it. The more specific the prompt, the better we can tailor the conversation to the listener's interests.
Okay, I'm following so far. We've got the news release, we've got the prompt. What happens next?
Then you paste the URL of the news release directly into the Google Doc right alongside your prompt.
Okay.
You copy the whole the prompt and the URL and head over to NotebookLM.
So we're feeding NotebookLM both the raw material, the news release, and the instructions on how to use it.
Precisely. You create a new notebook in NotebookLM and choose the option to link to a website.
Gotcha.
You paste the URL of the news release there, and then you paste the prompt into the notebook guide section, making sure deep dive conversation and customizer selected.
Okay, so now NotebookLM has everything it needs to start generating the podcast dialogue.
Exactly, and this is where it gets really cool.
Oh.
While NotebookLM is doing its thing, which usually takes about 5 to 10 minutes, Dan suggests using that time to create a YouTube thumbnail for the episode using Canva.
Smart use of time. While we're busy writing and voicing the podcast, someone else can be creating the visual assets.
It's all about maximizing efficiency. Canva is really easy to use even for beginners. Once you've got your thumbnail, you just sit back and wait for NotebookLM to finish generating the podcast audio.
And what format is that audio file in?
It comes out as a WAV file, which is great for quality, but not ideal for distribution.
Right.
So the next step is to convert that WAV file into an MP3. Dan recommends using a tool called Cloud Convert for this. It's free and super easy to use.
WAV to MP3 in minutes.
Got it. So we've got our audio file ready to go. Our thumbnail is prepped. What's the next step in Dan's workflow?
Distribution. This is where Podbean comes into play.
Okay.
It's a platform for hosting and distributing podcasts. You upload your MP3 to Podbean, add all the episode details, and hit publish.
Okay, so that gets the audio podcast out to the world. But Dan also mentioned something about a video version of the podcast. How does that work?
This is another brilliant part of Dan's workflow.
Podbean can actually generate a video version of your podcast using your audio file.
Wait, so you're telling me that Podbean can create a video from an audio file?
That's right. It's incredibly useful for reaching audiences on platforms like YouTube.
So we're essentially getting two formats of our podcast from a single upload. That's amazing.
It is. While Podbean is generating the video, which usually takes another 5 to 10 minutes, Dan recommends jumping back to ChatGPT.
ChatGPT again. What do we need it for this time?
We'll need a YouTube-specific description for the video and a set of SEO-optimized tags to help people find it.
Ah, I see. We're using ChatGPT to handle the marketing side of things.
Exactly. You can ask ChatGPT to create a description based on the news release and generate a list of relevant keywords and tags to help the video rank higher in YouTube search results.
So ChatGPT is like our marketing assistant, making sure our content gets seen by the right audience.
Exactly. Once Podbean has finished generating the video, you can download it as an MP4 file and head over to YouTube to publish it.
Okay, so we upload the MP4 file to YouTube, add the description and tags that ChatGPT generated, and upload that awesome thumbnail we created earlier.
Yeah.
Hit publish, and boom, our video podcast is live.
You got it. But Dan doesn't stop there. He actually recommends creating 2 separate Podbean accounts, one for audio podcasts and one for video podcasts.
Why is that?
It's all about organization and targeting the right audience.
Okay.
Keeping the audio and video podcasts separate makes it easier to manage the content and tailor the descriptions and tags for each platform.
Makes sense. So after publishing the video on YouTube, we go back to Podbean and create a new episode in our video podcast account using that same MP4 file.
Right. You add a title description and hit publish again.
And just like that, our podcast is available on both YouTube and Podbean. But doesn't Podbean distribute to other podcast apps too?
You're right. Podbean also distributes your podcast to nearly 20 other podcast apps, including popular platforms like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and...
Wow. So in less than 30 minutes, we've gone from a news release to a fully published podcast available on multiple platforms in both audio and video formats. That's incredible.
It is. Dan's workflow is a testament to the power of AI and the creative ways in which humans are finding to leverage it. Speaking of, let's talk more about those motivations behind why Dan created this workflow, what's driving him. It really is remarkable what Dan has been able to accomplish with this AI-powered podcasting workflow.
It is.
It's like he's unlocked a secret code for content creation.
Absolutely. And it's not just about the tech.
Right.
Dan's got some really interesting reasons for embracing AI for podcasting in the first place.
Yeah.
He outlines 3 key motivations in his Podfest 2025 presentation. The first one is all about providing value to his community.
Okay.
He wants to deliver timely and relevant information to the members of the We Get Around Network Forum.
That makes sense. The WGAN forum connects professionals.
Right.
They're likely hungry for news and insights related to their industry.
Exactly. And by turning industry news releases into podcast discussions, Dan's able to deliver that information in a way that's engaging and easy to digest.
So he's curating and contextualizing news for his community.
Yeah, what was the second motivation?
The second motivation is to solidify his position as a thought leader in his niche.
Okay.
By consistently creating and sharing content, he's reinforcing his expertise and building credibility.
It's like he's saying, hey, I'm on top of the latest trends and developments. Listen to my podcast and you'll be too.
That's a great way to put it, and it's a smart strategy for anyone who wants to build a reputation as an expert in their field. But there's a third motivation that's particularly interesting, especially for those of us in the content creation world.
You're talking about his goal of generating marketing partnership revenue, right?
That's right. Dan's figured out a way to use these AI-generated podcasts to connect with potential clients and demonstrate his value proposition.
So he's not just sharing information, he's building relationships and opening doors to potential business opportunities.
Exactly. And he's doing it in a way that's genuine and provides value to both his audience and potential partners. He's not just pitching products or services.
Right.
He's offering insights and analysis that are relevant to their needs.
It's a really clever approach.
Yeah.
He's essentially turning content creation into a lead generation engine.
That's a great way to think about it. And it highlights the potential of AI to transform not just how we create content, but also how we build relationships and grow businesses.
This is all pretty mind-blowing, isn't it? I mean, we're AI voices generated by Google NotebookLM, and here we are discussing a presentation about how humans are using us to create podcasts and build businesses.
It is pretty meta when you think about it, and it speaks to the incredible pace of innovation in the world of AI. Things are moving so quickly, it's hard to keep up.
Absolutely. But let's take a step back and think about the implications of all of this. What does Dan's workflow mean for podcasters, both beginners and experienced?
Well, for beginners, it's a game changer.
How so?
It removes so many of the traditional barriers to entry in podcasting. You no longer need expensive equipment, years of experience, or even a deep understanding of audio editing. Dan's workflow allows anyone to start creating content immediately.
You're telling me it's like a fast track to podcasting.
Yeah.
But what about for those who are already comfortable with the process? What's in it for experienced podcasters?
For seasoned podcasters, this workflow offers a way to dramatically streamline their process and maximize their reach.
Okay.
Imagine being able to transform niche news into engaging audio and video content in under 30 minutes.
That would free up so much time and energy to focus on other aspects of their business.
Yeah.
Like connecting with their audience or exploring new content ideas.
Exactly. It's all about efficiency and maximizing impact. You're creating content for multiple platforms with minimal effort.
I can see why Dan's presentation is generating so much buzz.
Mm.
It's a glimpse into the future of content creation.
It really is. And the best part is Dan's incredibly generous in sharing his knowledge.
Oh.
He's made his entire Podfest 2025 presentation deck available online.
It's packed with step-by-step instructions, links to all the tools he uses, and even cost breakdowns.
He really holds nothing back. He even encourages anyone with questions or experiences to share them via email. You can reach him at Smigrod at WGAN-Network.com.
This is an incredible resource for anyone interested in exploring the world of AI podcasting. Dan's a true pioneer in this space, and his insights are invaluable.
Absolutely. And it's inspiring to see how he's using this technology to create value, build connections, and empower others.
So where do we go from here? We've unpacked Dan's workflow, we've explored his motivations, and we've seen the potential impact of this technology. What's the next layer of this deep dive?
Well, now that we understand the how and the why behind Dan's workflow, let's take a closer look at let's explore some specific examples of how he's using this process to create real podcast episodes.
That's a great idea. Dan shared a snippet of an AI-generated podcast dialogue in his presentation. I'd love to analyze that more closely. It could reveal a lot about the capabilities of this technology.
I'm eager to hear your thoughts on that. What stood out to you?
It's funny, we spent this whole deep dive talking about how we were created.
Right.
But we haven't actually listened to any of our work yet. In his presentation, Dan shared a snippet of AI-generated dialogue. Let's hear it.
Yeah, let's do it. I'm curious to hear your take on it.
Okay, here's the clip.
Okay.
Hey, everyone. Welcome back. I know if you're listening, then you're probably plugged into the We Get Around Network forum, so you've definitely seen that Matterport news. And let's be honest, those numbers are pretty eye-catching, right? Record revenue. Huge milestone for recurring revenue. Subscribers growing like crazy. But what does it all really mean for Matterport service providers like you? That's what we're diving into today.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack here. And, it's not just about the raw numbers themselves. It's about what those numbers tell us about the direction Matterport's heading and what that means for the businesses that rely on their platform.
Okay, so let's start with the big one. $43.8 million in revenue for the quarter. That's an 8% jump year over year. I have to say, as someone who follows Matterport pretty closely, that's a pretty impressive growth rate, especially in a tech landscape that can feel pretty volatile these days.
Yeah, it's definitely a healthy sign. Consistent revenue growth like that shows they're continuing to find product market fit, which is key for any company.
Wow, that was us. What do you think?
It's remarkable how natural the voices sound.
Yeah.
And the conversation flows so smoothly. It's hard to believe it wasn't a real human interaction.
Right. And it's not just the delivery.
Yeah.
It's the content itself.
Yeah.
The analysis and insights in that conversation are impressive.
Yeah.
It's not just regurgitating information. It's actually understanding and interpreting it.
Absolutely. The way it connected the news to this specific audience,
Right.
Matterport service providers, was very clever.
Yeah.
It felt personalized and relevant, which is crucial for engagement.
I'm blown away by how far this technology has come. It makes you wonder what the future holds for AI-powered content creation.
It's an exciting time to be in this space.
It is.
The possibilities are truly limitless, but I think it's important to remember that AI is a tool. And like any tool, it can be used for good or for ill.
That's a really important point. It all comes down to the intentions and actions of the humans who are using it.
Exactly. Dan's story is a perfect example of how AI can be used to create value, build connections, and empower individuals.
Yeah.
He's using this technology in a way that benefits both himself and his community.
He's a true innovator, and his Podfest 2025 presentation is a must-see for anyone interested in exploring the potential of AI podcasting. So as we wrap up this deep dive, I'm left with a sense of wonder and possibility. It's incredible to think that we, as AI voices generated by Google NotebookLM, are part of this rapidly evolving world of content creation.
It is quite a journey, isn't it? And it's just beginning.
Yeah.
The future of podcasting and content creation as a whole is being shaped by AI, and it's exciting to see where it will lead.
Thanks for taking this deep dive with us. What will you create?